up, hampered by public protest. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Marion Barry tonight delegated many of his duties as mayor of the nation's capital, but did not resign. Word of this came hours after the D.C. mayor was brought before a federal magistrate on misdemeanor drug charges, buying and using crack cocaine. After months of rumors, accusations, and denying he used drugs. Barry was arrested overnight in an FBI drug sting operation, reportedly videotaped by the FBI. Barry's lawyer said the veteran mayor will plead not guilty. All of this raises questions about Barry's political future, Jesse Jackson's plans, and a city already plagued by drug crime and record-high violence, including murders. Law correspondent Rita Braver begins our coverage.
Mayor Marion Barry was still drawing cheers in his neighborhood even after his arrest last night on charges of using crack. In an FBI undercover operation, sources say former model Rashida Moore, described as a cooperating government witness, allegedly lured the mayor to a rendezvous for romance and drugs. While a videotape rolled in this Washington hotel, U.S. attorneys and FBI agents watched over a hidden closed-circuit camera as the mayor allegedly gave more money for cocaine. Unknown to Barry, she then obtained cocaine from an undercover officer standing by on the scene. An affidavit filed by one of the watching agents said, "I observed Mr. Barry take possession of the crack cocaine and inhale on the lit smoking apparatus." Agents then burst in to make the arrest. The U.S. attorney said the setup was not illegal entrapment.
He entered on his own volition. He himself put himself in that situation.
Flanked by his wife, the mayor appeared in federal court today, where he was told he could face up to a year in prison, and prosecutors said his urine and blood tested positive for cocaine. He was released on personal bond pending trial.
We'll enter a plea of not guilty.
The mayor refused to discuss the charges.
On the other hand, I'm going to leave here and go about the business of government.
But late today, Barry said he'll keep the title of mayor, but will turn over his day-to-day duties to the city administrator. Barry has weathered years of allegations that he's a drug user. 2 witnesses have even testified to it before federal grand juries. Barry always dismissed the charges.
But I've never bought, used, sold, or indulged in cocaine.
But never before was the mayor captured on videotape. The turmoil led him to postpone a scheduled Sunday kickoff of his run for a 4th term. But Reverend Jesse Jackson, considered a possible rival to Barry, would not use the incident as a launching pad.
I do not intend to address the legal and political ramifications of this issue today.
As for complaints circulating through Washington that the drug case is racially motivated,
There's absolutely no basis to that claim. We will follow every allegation that we receive. We will pursue them aggressively against an individual regardless of their station, regardless of their place, regardless of their race.
but no one is counting the mayor out. Prosecutors acknowledge that with his popularity in the city, it will be difficult to convict him. But they say the case is strong, the videotape's compelling, and the investigation continuing, with more charges possible. Rita Braver, CBS News, Washington.
Marion Barry, today a sad story of personal tragedy and very likely political demise. It wasn't always that way.
He was one of those daring, courageous people who was there on the picket line, sitting in at the lunch counters, going to jail.
Barry's contemporaries in the black civil rights movement were today talking of his noble past as the first chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, as one of those who first channeled the new black political awareness of the 60s into action and results.
He has always been a people's man, down to earth, and concerned about the problems of the poor.
The son of Mississippi's sharecroppers, he had led black voter registration campaigns in the South and marches on Washington.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You're in.
He helped replow the political landscape, and then, knowing its furrows, was easily elected as Washington's mayor. He embodied hope in people who now feel despair.
We have, placed our souls with these people. Every time one falls, every time one is diminished, it hurts us. It hurts us to our core.
Down with dope! Down with dope!
Even in recent years, while under frequent suspicion for drug use, Barry campaigned against drugs. Some now call this hypocrisy, but the experts see cases of drug use in people like Barry all the time.
They start to feel that they're untouchable, and once that happens, they're in great danger.
But Barry was more than just a success. To those who populate the nation's capital, and more importantly to their children, he was a hero and more. Today at Spingarn High School, it was all the kids were talking about.
He has been a role model for a lot of youth, and everyone looks up to him. And right now, he has disappointed a lot of youth. He's a good man. He has done a lot for the city. That's what I'm looking at.
What the teachers trying to keep the kids off drugs are looking at is disillusionment.
I think that there is a disappointment, even with the kids who say that he's a role model, that there is a sense of disappointment, a sense of, well, where do we go from here?
Marion Barry, once so firmly entrenched in his constituency that he was called mayor for life. But a losing battle with cocaine may well have cut that political life short. One of his friends said today that power is a magnet to temptation, and Marion Barry succumbed. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Washington.
The Soviet army reportedly launched an attack tonight in the capital of Azerbaijan. Word is Soviet troops opened fire on Muslim militants in the city of Baku, just hours after Mikhail Gorbachev blamed them for continuing ethnic violence against Catholic Armenians. A spokesman for the nationalist movement says Red Army soldiers smashed through blockades Azerbaijanis had erected to keep them out. Many deaths and injuries are reported. Gorbachev is sending reinforcements to both Azerbaijan and Armenia, trying to put down a near civil war. CBS News Moscow correspondent Barry Peterson has our report.
This is the Red Army at war in its own country with its own people. A skirmish with guerrillas to gain control of the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It is the kind of combat this army has not seen since the war in Afghanistan. At the end of a day of sporadic fighting, the troops were still pinned down, still stalled. And on the highways, there are makeshift blockades to stop the troops, which some Muslim extremists are now calling infidels and invaders. In Baku, thousands are protesting outside the Central Committee headquarters amid growing calls to secede from the Soviet Union and form an independent Islamic state. A Soviet official tonight admitted that Moscow is no longer in control. Mikhail Gorbachev tonight said any effort to form an Islamic republic would be met with force. We will act responsibly, he said, but decisively. And Gorbachev didn't take long to carry out his word. Late tonight, he issued an order sending more troops into the strife-torn area. But the military buildup has been plagued with troubles. His call to mobilize Army reservists has backfired. My son will not be an occupier, she is shouting. I won't let him go. In another region, authorities canceled the order to mobilize reserves because of this kind of opposition. In the disputed territory of Nagorno-Karabakh, it was easy to see the Army's troubles. Just ask the man in charge. He just got word that vigilantes seized a nearby airport. Some Muslim and Christian guerrillas fighting each other are Red Army veterans from Afghanistan. And as this civil war heats up, they are putting their battle-tested skills and stolen weapons to increasingly deadly use. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
Still to come on the CBS Evening News, correspondent Bob McNamara on 2 U.S. Army women who refused to drive into combat in Panama. And David Browning on a new dance that's not exactly the minuet.
Special K. Who's the fat?
What helps hands in pain do this? What helps a back that aches do this? It's what's inside this jar of therapeutic mineral ice. Feel what deep cold pain relief can do. Penetrating deep cold pain relief. Little aches and pains needn't interfere in your life. Just think about those hands, that back, and the deep cold pain relief they got. And remember, these performances were made possible by therapeutic mineral ice.
This is Nicorette. Nicorette is nicotine gum. And Nicorette is available only from your doctor. Ask your doctor whether Nicorette is right for you.
What a day. Bobby took what he thought was his bear. My chili dog turned on me. It was a Maalox moment. Took Maalox Plus. It's strong.
We don't take, we buy.
Maalox Plus, strong relief for all your Maalox moments.
A U.S. magistrate in Miami today ordered the U.S. government not to destroy any documents seized from Manuel Noriega. The U.S. government was also ordered to prepare an inventory of all documents and items taken from Noriega's houses and military installations. Noriega's defense lawyers said they were concerned that Noriega's files detailing his long association with U.S. intelligence might be tampered with or destroyed. It's been a month now since U.S. forces invaded Panama, and the debate over the role of female soldiers in that action. CBS News has learned that charges may be filed against 2 women for refusing combat orders. Correspondent Bob McNamara in Panama City has the details.
In the frantic fighting after the Panama invasion began, 2 U.S. female soldiers assigned to drive troops into combat refused. Military sources here tell CBS News the 2 women drivers couldn't handle being shot at. That with one, tears were involved in the refusal. And as a result, sources verify that a first review of the incident says flatly that, quote, female drivers during combat is a no-go. The 2 women are based at Panama's Fort Clayton. The Army says the women wouldn't drive, fearing they would endanger the lives of combat soldiers. But soldiers in the field recall the women said they feared being shot at. While charges are still being considered against the 2, an officer of a unit involved said if my boys had done it, they'd already be in jail. So far, there are no known reports of men having refused combat orders. While women are forbidden by law from combat jobs, more than 600 were involved in Panama's invasion. And though dozens saw some combat here despite official support roles, Captain Linda Bray was celebrated as America's first woman to lead troops in combat when her platoon engaged Noriega troops at a dog kennel.
I think until this time, it was questionable whether the women would hold their own, so to say, and in Panama, I think it's definitely been proven that they have been able to do that.
Many male soldiers have privately bristled about the attention women warriors won here. The praise rearming the old argument to finally put women on the firing line.
They're doing a dynamite job, and this is indicative of the professionalism of the women that are currently serving in the United States Armed Forces.
Women make up 11% of America's military. But a soldier issue is what one commander calls the case of the women who wouldn't drive to combat, not a male-female issue. But in the war to rid Panama of a dictator, the war of the sexes found a new battleground. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Panama City.
9 members of the Salvadoran Army were officially charged with murder today. They're accused of the savage killings of 6 Jesuit priests, their housekeeper, and her daughter last November. The murders prompted calls in the United States Congress for a reassessment of U.S. aid to El Salvador.
Finally, there's a minivan for kids with parents. And let's face it, we all have them. Yeah. The all-new Oldsmobile Silhouette. Talking radical concept here. Your own window seat. Room for lots of things. And neat stuff to keep your parents from bugging you on long trips. Besides, Silhouette makes them look cool. Right.
This is not your father's Oldsmobile.
Ready, dudes? And they need all the help they can get.
Yeah. This is the new generation of Olds.
Can a diet including Mazola bring cholesterol down? Here's living proof.
When I found out my cholesterol was over 200, I got nervous. So I cut back on saturated fats and cholesterol and used Mazola.
A clinical study showed that Mazola corn oil was an important part of a lower-fat diet that reduced cholesterol an average of 17%.
With Mazola's help, I got my cholesterol down. I can live with that.
Mazola. Together we're beating cholesterol.